The People's Party convention took place over the weekend as an answer to what I think most people can agree was the disappointment that people felt following the RNC and the DNC. The People's Party convention had a number of wonderful speakers. I wish we can cover more of them in depth, but I did choose 2 highlights to discuss, including Bernie's 2020 campaign co-chair, State Senator Nina Turner, and the incredibly powerful words that she had to share. Let's take a look.
The old and the rich will live on a while, as always, eating blood and gold, letting kids die. Kids will die in the swamps of Mississippi, organizing sharecroppers. Kids will die in the streets of Chicago, organizing workers. Kids will die in the orange groves of California, telling others to get together. Whites and Filipinos, Negroes and Mexicans, all kinds of kids will die who don't believe in lies and bribes and contentment and a lousy peace. Hello, somebody. See, this poem encapsulates this very moment. Brother Langston Hughes is talking about this very moment. I hope you caught what he said. He said, telling others to get together, whites and Filipinos, Negroes and Mexicans, all kinds of kids will die who don't believe in lies and bribes and contentment and lousy peace. That is what the movement for a People's Party is all about.
So Malaika, one of the things that really stood out to me in this convention versus the other 2 conventions was this message of, yes, inequality that disproportionately impacts Black people in America, but also the inequality that most Americans are feeling right now, experiencing right now, and just the lack of representation people have in government. And so this is really an answer to that, and just this aggressive message of, hey, we're not getting what we need from this 2-party system. So I wanted to kind of get your thoughts. Did you watch any of the convention, and do you think that this type of messaging is resonating with a broader electorate?
I paid attention to the coverage. I haven't watched full slates, full slates of speakers. I'm actually in Atlanta to do some reporting on the Rayshard Brooks case. And then before that, I was in Kenosha. So trying to squeeze in all of these things that are happening in the news cycle, but I have been following along and keeping up with some of the organizers. And I think it's very refreshing, as we see from Nina Turner, that we have a formation of an organization, a formation of a party that's actually combining its policy with this rhetoric, with this inspirational message. You cannot have these 2 corporate-backed parties who say all these grand things about making America great again, or building back America better, or whatever the Biden campaign has come up with. And then you look behind kind of that veneer and you see that it's very empty. That Joe Biden on one hand, while Kamala Harris is talking about what she's going to do for Black people and breaking these glass ceilings, and then Joe Biden talking to Wall Street Journal reporters about the fact that actually we won't come up with the money to pay for all of these grand things, and he's pushing this progressive platform. So to have people who are actually interested in pursuing the policies that they speak on, I think is very, very powerful. It speaks to the fact that this movement is not dying. The radicalized movement of people who are either supporting Bernie Sanders are just holdovers from Occupy Wall Street and Black Lives Matter and a variety of these other movements, or millennials. The fact that they have some sort of avenue to actually pursue the policies that they've been fighting for is very encouraging, and we need that right now in a pandemic.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that this is the message that we need in the middle of the pandemic, right? And I really did think that there would be an aggressive case made for Medicare for all, for instance, as a result of what so many Americans, tens of millions of Americans experienced as a result of getting laid off. They not only lost their income, they also lost the health insurance that comes along with that employment. And it was just frustrating to see how it was a layup really for Democrats if they actually genuinely wanted to push for that type of policy. But they did the opposite. They considered extending COBRA or expanding COBRA which is a program that the majority of Americans can't afford, and they certainly can't afford it if they've lost their jobs and have no source of income. And so you're right. I mean, I think there are so many people right now who feel that they're not represented. It's incredibly discouraging to see what's happening in the country and not hear anyone in any position of power offer actual robust solutions. And again, what stood out to me about this convention is that these are people who are speaking to the material issues that Americans are experiencing right now and had been experiencing even before the pandemic, just that the pandemic has compounded it further. One of the other speeches that really stood out to me, and anytime he speaks, it stands out to me because he's such a great speaker, was Dr. Cornel West. So here's a highlight from his speech.
57 years and 3 days ago, the greatest public intellectual in the history of the American empire died in Ghana. His name was W.E.B. Du Bois. And that next morning, young brother Martin Luther King told America about a dream that he had, which was not the American dream, but a dream rooted in the American dream. And has everything to do with the movement for People's Party. Because what we're talking about here is a people who muster the wherewithal, who have not just the courage, but the fortitude to fructify. And by fructify, I mean to generate the fruits of truth-telling, to generate the truth of justice seeking, to generate the truth of kindness and sweetness and gentleness in how we relate to each other, but with a steel spine when it comes to bearing witness in the face of oppression. That's why Du Bois raised the 4 questions. What does integrity do in the face of oppression? Oh, here's the movement in the People's Party. What does honesty do in the face of deception? Here is the People's Party at its best. What does decency do in the face of insult and assault? What does courage do in the face of brute force? We are living in a moment of massive imperial meltdown, spiritual breakdown, and we need prophetic fight back. And the People's Party is a prophetic fight back that, like Du Bois, believes in multiracial, multi-gender, multi-sexual orientation, or multi-binary and non-binary sexual sensibilities and orientation, a solidarity with those friends for known called the wretched of the earth that can tell the truth about America, both its best and its worth. Because let us never forget, each and every one of us come out of various families, communities, and traditions. So we have to be true for where we come from. And I come from a people who have been on intimate terms with catastrophe.
What always amazes me about Dr. Cornel West is how his answer to some of the worst elements of society is kindness and the ability to recognize his own flaws and not be overly judgmental to people who might make mistakes. I mean, he's a way better person than I am because, considering what we're going through right now in this country, it's hard to answer to certain things from a level of self-awareness and kindness, right? But what I love about his message is it always goes back to how this system really does serve as a negative for a lot of different people. With the exception of a small group of few individuals who get to take advantage of the system, hoard the money, hoard the wealth, hoard the income, while other people are experiencing the ramifications of the system and at the same time lacking the representation needed to find and pursue real solutions.
Absolutely. He speaks to a kind of moral clarity and gravity that's really needed right now, because the bottom line is we are facing 2 different paths right now. We are allowing hundreds of thousands of people to die. And this is not just from a Trump administration. This is from decades and centuries of American individualism, of capitalism, of white supremacy, of all of these systems that have said, you know what, we're just gonna put this in the hands of individuals, a few individuals, and of corporations. And so we have no public infrastructure. So at this juncture, are we saying that we are okay with that? Are we okay with hundreds of thousands of people dying and falling ill, and then people dying before the coronavirus, before the pandemic? Are we okay with hundreds of thousands of people being evicted and millions of people being homeless? So this is a moral juncture for America. This is a moral question for anybody who cares about justice at all. And so I think it's very important to have that kind of, to have somebody who's thinking on that level. We know that it's also about power, and that's important for low-income people, for people of color to also gain positions of power. But you also want to get at the hearts of people, because everyone's not going to be out there fighting in the street. So are you going to be complicit in this problem or not? And I want to add too, I think it's important that he mentions people like Martin Luther King, who we just conceive of as this, a pastor who was talking about love everybody, but he was also saying that America is fundamentally flawed, and that democratic socialism and having a fundamental revolution of our values was vital. And so you'll get MLK's message get co-opted by liberals the same way Ella Baker's message was co-opted by the Biden campaign during his speech. We're talking about two socialists. And so advocating for socialism, advocating for anti-capitalism isn't just some theoretical, okie dokie, academic exercise. It's about morality, and he really calls attention to that.
Want to win a free electric scooter? Well, our partners at Aspiration and Zoom Electric are making it possible. All you have to do is head to tyt.com/greensummer for your chance to win.